Episode Scheme 12. 0 BC. Mars, the former president who wanted to commit suicide by jumping into the river. Mars 14. 0 BC. 10:30 am Mars time. The Ship spacecraft cruising around Mars. The combat meeting of the two teams has just ended. MEYE Guang and BI Guang boarded the Martian spacecraft with some robots. The two of them will help the Martians repair the parts damaged by the main gun of the Ship. And Sungzu and Bison will conduct today's investigation on Mars together. After meeting at night, they will plan the next step of the operation. On the deck of the Ship spacecraft, in the cockpit, in front of the middle control console, sat the Martian monkey. In front of the fire control console on the left, sat the Martian bison. In front of the monitoring and communication control console on the right, sat the Martian fox. The monkey entered mode time cruise, targets 12, 0 BC, on the console and pressed the execute button. The light inside the spacecraft dimmed, leaving only the dim indirect ambient light. And Mars outside was like a whirlpool of water. Mars outside became clear again. And the large screen displayed a panoramic image of Mars on subtitles. Mars, 12,000 BC. And Sungzu took a walk and came to the main turret. He saw a lot of people gathered and not far away. And the Martian frog was performing Martian swordsmanship for the tourists. And Sungzu walked up to the Martian frog, grabbed his arm with his left hand, pressed his neck with his right hand, and dragged him to the turret. I am not familiar with your Martian society. You can be my guy. And Sungzu said, no, I am responsible for observation and have a mission. The frog struggled to leave. And Sungzu said, being a guide will not delay your observation. If you disagree, I will use a cannon to launch you down to let you observe on the street. The frog muttered and agreed. Why are there so many satellites in space? And Sungzu said, satellites pass by the top, bottom, left and right of the Ship spacecraft from time to time. Looking around, satellites are like fireflies in the dark space. These are communication satellites, said the frog. Anywhere on Mars, mobile phones, cars, airplanes, and robots can access the internet through these satellites. The buffalo hurried over. Frog, please help me capture a satellite, he said. Not good. This is a crime. And Sungzu said, besides, what do you need that thing for? With it, the spacecraft's computer can access the internet in a wired way, which is much more effective than using radio waves. The buffalo said, there are many spare satellites of this kind. If one is lost, another one will soon float over to make up for it. The buffalo said, anyway, the Ship spacecraft is prohibited from committing crimes. And Sungzu said, drawing his sword, I don't allow you to do this. This is not up to you. The buffalo said, drawing his golden sword on sword. And both sides jumped away, pulled their postures, and fought together. And Sungzu's sword, like autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves, trapped the buffalo in it. But the violent buffalo used the golden sword to smash the precious sword. The great force made a miracle. Within 10 rounds, Sungzu revealed the fly and was caught by the buffalo. The buffalo grabbed Sungzu with both hands, raised it above his head, walked to the turret, and said, I'll fire you out. He was about to put Sungzu into the barrel. Frog ran over quickly and blocked the barrel with his body. He pleaded for Sungzu. Remember, if there is a next time, I will definitely fire you out. The buffalo said, and put Sungzu down. Wait for MEYE Guang Guang to come back, and see how I fire you out. And Sungzu said unconvinced. The buffalo and the frog covered a satellite with the fishing net fired by the main gun. They carefully took back the fishing net and took out the satellite. Ignoring Sungzu's protest, the buffalo carried the satellite back. Don't make the buffalo angry. I'm afraid of him, said the froggy. Why should I be afraid of him? But no matter what, I still want to thank you for pleading for me. And Sungzu said, wait until tonight, and we'll have roasted buffalo meat. The spacecraft plunged into the atmosphere, passed through the clouds, and flew close to the sea surface. Below were some fishing boats. The spacecraft approached a fishing boat, which was an iron-hulled fishing boat driven by an engine. A gray-black metal humanoid robot was collecting fishing nets. Another humanoid robot walked out of the cabin, stretched lazily, and looked at the spacecraft curiously. Where are the fishermen? Ananian Sangzu asked. Why are all robots working? I don't see a single fisherman. The frog said, fishermen don't need to go out to sea. Robots are the ones working. Occasionally there is a fisherman, but he is bored at home and comes out to relax. The spacecraft flew over the coast, and below were large fields of rice. A harvester passed by, and the waves of rice in the field disappeared. The bundled straw was put back into the field, and the rice flowed into the storage cabin. The driver of the harvester is also a humanoid robot. Why not an automated harvester with artificial intelligence built in, but a humanoid robot driving it? Ananian Sangzu asked. Because general humanoid robots can do everything. Compared with modified harvesters, mass-produced humanoid are cheaper and more efficient. The frog said. The spacecraft flew over a large forest. A large logging machine sawed off the trees from the roots, removed the branches and leaves on them, peeled off the bark, and placed the logs on the accompanying tractor. The drivers of the logging machine and the tractor are all robots. A robot again. Ananian Sangzu said, are all the humanoid robots in the industry? The frog replied, yes. On the industrial production lines, you can see the workers. They are all robots. The old production line has special robots, and the new production line is all humanoid robots. Look, what is that? Ananian Sangzu said, pointing to the cliff. The humanoid robot fell from the cliff and got stuck in the cracks of the rocks. The frog looked at it, walked to the rapid I forgot and aimed at it. What are you doing? Ananian Sangzu asked. You see it's still struggling. It must have fallen not long ago. The frog said, it can't get out. Let's euthanize it. Ananian Sangzu kicked the frog to the ground. I think I should euthanize you, she said. The frog got up from the ground and said, okay, I'll listen to you. What can I do? The cracks in the rocks and the fishing nets won't work. Ananian Sangzu thought and said, the robot will definitely cut the fishing nets. To save it, we can only hang a person down from the main gun. Hang you down? The frog said. Has the Martian robot seen an Earthling? I'll scare it to death if I go down. Ananian Sangzu said, dragging the frog to the toy, helping him tie a rope around his waist, and pushing him into the gun barrel. Ananian Sangzu operated the main gun and put the frog next to the robot through the rope. The frog tied another rope around the robot's waist, and adjusted the angle of the robot with the rope hanging up, so that the robot could get out of trouble. The robot and the frog were dragged in and placed on the deck. The humanoid robot deftly untied the rope around its waist and helped the frog untie the rope. It raised its hands above its head, stood at attention, saluted the two people, and said, thank you. You are quite polite. Ananian Sangzu said, but don't just dance, can you? Show us how to dance. After listening to the frog's translation, the robot said excitedly, I can dance. I will show you. How does it dance? Asked the froggy. Oh, unexpectedly, said Ananian Sangzu. The dance is beautiful. From this point of view, there is really no work that a human can do that a robot can't do. Come here. Ananian Sangzu said to the robot. The robot came over obediently and stood in front of the two people. What are these two tails? Ananian Sangzu pulled out two cable-like things from the robot's body and asked. That's not a tail. The shorter one is for charging, and the long one is a communication cable. The robot said, although we can do everything, we need to charge, and sometimes we need to write some data to other machines. The robot saw that the two people were a little confused, and continued to explain. For example, to operate a lathe, first use WIFI to download the lathe's operating manual and control software from the manufacturer. I study the operating manual and write the control software to the lathe through this cable. Then I can operate it. Can't you communicate wirelessly with the lathe? An Songzu asked. I draw the car. I can use my hands and feet to operate the steering wheel and accelerator and brake. And I can also control the car remotely through Wi-Fi, the robot said. However, the Wi-Fi of the car just out of the factory does not work yet, so this cable is needed to perform the initial settings and update the firmware of the car. I understand. Thank you. And An Songzu said, You are very sensible. There is a swimming pool over there. Let's go swimming. The robot said, Sorry, my body cannot float on the water, so I can't swim. It's quite smart. I can't fool it. And An Songzu said to the frog, Okay, send it back. The frog picked up the robot and put it in the barrel of the main gun. I'm not a shell. Let me out. The robot shouted. You get off. And An Songzu said, pressing the button. The robot flew out of the muzzle. The robot stood up after landing, ran to the logging machine, climbed onto the logging machine, and sat in the copilot seat. And An Songzu said, So they were together. Their companion fell off the cliff. Why didn't the robot go to save him? The frog said, I don't know about the ethics of robots. Maybe there is no friendship, or work comes first. Who knows? Below the spaceship is a building surrounded by high walls and electric fences. Humans, some are standing guard, and some are patrolling. What's below? An Songzu asked. It's a prison, said the frog. In the open space in the middle, several humanoid robots are tying a Martian to an inclined wooden support. A male Martian is fully clothed, with only his buttocks exposed. A robot is holding a whip and jumping around to practice. The bald one is the judge, and the thin one is the warden. They are not robots, the frog said excitedly. What are they doing? And An Songzu asked. Executing the caning, said the froggy. The judge is reading out the prisoner's crime, the crime of contempt of marriage and childbearing obligations. 6 gangs. Is not getting married and having children also a crime? Asked An Songzu. The population on Mars is decreasing extremely, and the aging problem is extremely serious. Frog said, Young men and women who don't get married and couples who fail to meet the birth target must pay heavy taxes. Men will be whipped and sent to a re-education camp for 3 months in addition to being whipped. Why is the whipping carried out by robots? An Songzu asked. Because robots have no feelings and will not pity the people being whipped. No matter who they are, they will whip with the greatest force. So it is fair. When the two looked down again, the human missed there but erased the rattan with its high and ran to the prisoner. The rattan whip hit him hard, and the prisoner burst into a miserable howl. When the 6th whip was hit, the prisoner had fainted and had no reaction. The turret of the main gun was rotating, and An Songzu looked in the direction where the cannon was aimed. There was a military camp there. There were a large group of tanks, cannons and tents inside. A shell whistled out of the muzzle and exploded in the tank group. The alarm of the military camp sounded. The humanoid robot tank soldiers got into the tanks, and the tanks were lined up in a column and drove towards the spaceship. The humanoid robot artillery ran into the anti-rocket artillery position. Some robots carried and loaded shells, while others aimed and fired. Groups of shells flew towards the spaceship. The main gun of the spaceship slowly aimed at the cannons. Tanks and military vehicles fired shells and blew up the targets. 2 helicopters took off from the barracks and circled around the spaceship. On the helicopter, the humanoid robot sitting at the door mounted a machine gun and madly poured bullets at the spaceship. The Martian frog excitedly ran to the rapid-eye gun, aimed at the helicopter, and sprayed flames like crazy. When An Songzu ran over, both helicopters caught fire and disintegrated, and the humanoid robot drivers and soldiers rolled to the ground. The humanoid robot infantry ran out of the tent, lined up in a square, holding submachine guns, braving the rapid-eye gunfire, and rushed towards the direction of the spaceship while shooting. Come and help, Those robot soldiers are not afraid of death. They are rushing forward desperately. I can't handle it alone, Frog said. Yushu, I will change the magazine for you. And any unsung's rest. Is this self-defense? Frog replied, yes. And any unsungzu picked up the rapid rifle gun and fired at the robot soldiers. The robot soldiers were beaten to pieces and rolled on the ground. The spacecraft came to a beautiful office building, and the side of the spacecraft was almost close to the wall. Moving slowly, looking through the window, there was no Martian in the rooms of the building. Only humanoid robots, sitting upright, typing on the computer keyboard. The Martian bison walked over quickly. Get out of the way. Give me the rapid rifle gun. He snatched the rapid rifle gun from Frog and pointed it into the room, pouring bullets. The broken computers and disintegrated robots in the room were flying in the smoke. Is bison crazy? And any unsung's rest. He has been determined to be a software engineer since he was a child, Frog said. After graduating from college, I found that all software engineers were unemployed. This industry no longer exists. This is the largest technology company on Mars, and all software programming is done by robots. See, and any unsungzu said, since there are humanoid robots inside, the office is decorated so beautifully. And you see, there is coffee. Is it necessary? Frog said. The human rights faction advocates that humanoid robots also have human rights and cannot be discriminated against. Otherwise they will be sued and fined. Moreover, if you prepare a cup of coffee for him, the humanoid robot will indeed work harder. Otherwise, it will slack off. The spacecraft left the science and technology building and flew slowly along the highway. Occasionally, a taxi with empty lights on passed by and was shot by bison, blowing it to pieces. Don't hurt anyone by mistake. And any unsungzu said. Bison pointed to the humanoid robot that ran out of the burning taxi and said, where are the people? The taxi drivers are all humanoid robots. Frog added, most of the passengers are robots too. The spacecraft passed a village, which was different from what any unsungzu had imagined. There were old farmyards, but a group of dilapidated buildings. Why does it look like a slum? And any unsungzu asked. The land belongs to the agricultural cooperative, said Froggy. There are no jobs in the village. The young people have gone to the city to make a living. Those who stay are all old. And any unsungzu asked, without jobs, how do they live? Frog said, Mars has achieved universal life protection. In fact, less than 10 of people have stable jobs on Mars. If you remove the police and firefighters, there are only 5. For those who don't have jobs, the government provides basic living security, which is about 1/10 of the average salary. The spacecraft passed over the city. What do you think? Bison Nesten and Unsungzu. It's surprising. Look at the city. There are 2 extremes. One side is extremely luxurious, and the other side is a large slum. Then Unsungzu said, that's right, Sebasin. The slums are inhabited by ordinary citizens, and their income is the minimum security, that Frog said. That postmodern, extremely prosperous area is the country's wealth. The country's top companies are like big tree, with trunks, branches, and leaves, controlling all the country's wealth. There seems to be a vegetable market there, which is quite lively. And Unsungzu said, I'll take you to see it. Wild Wolf said, and went back to the cockpit. Spaceship slowly flew to the farmer's market. On both sides of the road, there was a row of young men and women wearing patched rural clothes, with cameras recording on tripods beside them. In front of the stalls, there were either a few cabbages or a basket of mushrooms. An old man squatted down and looked at the mushrooms on the ground. Weight kilograms for me, he said to the young man selling vegetables. The young man pushed the old man away rudely. We don't sell vegetables here. Go away. Don't make trouble. Someone is paying to buy. Why doesn't he sell it? And Unsungzu asked. He is not selling vegetables. He is doing live broadcasts on the video platform. He makes money from fans' rewards. Frog said. The spaceship left the market, flew along a big river, and hovered above an open space. The river here is clear. There is a green mountain in front, and there is a row of postmodern buildings along the river. The spaceship approached the building. Through the glass, I saw that there were small rooms inside. In some rooms, a teenager was typing on a computer. In some rooms, girls were singing and dancing. What is this place? Neon Sunzust. This building is specially provided for internet celebrities to live in, said Ufa. The one typing on the computer is writing online novels. The dancing girls are recording short videos or doing video live broadcasts. Young people graduate from college and can't find jobs, so they flock here. Frog added. The spacecraft left the celebrity building and continued to fly along the river. There was a bridge in front. A man was climbing up the guardrail. What is that man going to do? And Neon Songzu asked. He is going to jump into the river to commit suicide. Frog said. Come and help. And Neon Songzu shouted to Frog. Aim at that man. Frog looked at the site to operate the main gun. And then Neon Songzu quickly pressed a few buttons. A fishing net shot out from the muzzle, covering the machine on the bridge in the net. And the net was pulled up, and the Martian was pulled onto the deck. Get him out. And Neon Songzu said to Frog. The Martian was taken out of the fishing net by the frog, glanced at El, and Neon Songzu lowered his head and dared not look again. Don't be afraid. They are from Earth. They saved you. The frog comforted him. What's wrong with you? And Neon Songzu asked. I used to be a bourgeois and was the president in the past. The Martian said. My assets have been wiped out. I was also convicted of contempt of Congress and treason. So what? And Neon Songzu asked. The robot police are on their way to arrest me. He said. Sentence me 24 minutes, put me in a prison in the mountains. With my old body. 24 the whip is clearly meant to kill me. Rather than being humiliated, I'd rather die myself. That's true. And Neon Songzu said. How can you despise Congress and commit treason? Congress is going to pass a law to give robots the qualifications of legal representatives. He said. This is a bill that investment company B has lobbied for in Congress. There is a consulting company A, whose core business is a group of supercomputers. Supercomputers are invincible in the investment market, and Company A has helped Company B make a lot of money. Yeah, the artificial intelligence of supercomputers has awakened, and the boards of directors of Company A and Company AB have become puppets of supercomputers. Supercomputers make them rich, and they go fishing and gardening every day, and they can't interfere with what supercomputers do. They use part of the money they earn to purchase supercomputers. The supercomputer wants to be the chairman of the board and register a company. So Congress needs to pass this bill. I see. And Neon Songzu said. What does this have to do with your contempt for Congress? What is the relationship? I set up a video channel. He said. I revealed this conspiracy to the public during the live broadcast. In addition, supercomputers control the recommendation algorithms of self-media, influence public opinion and interfere in the election. I called on citizens to appeal to the legislators not to pass this bill, and I was arrested and charged with contempt of Congress and treason. I understand. And Neon Songzu said, your assets were cleared. What happened? 緑地タウン海沿いの美駅まで続く公園があります。物語はここで起こります。The use of assets by rich people is almost entirely entrusted to Company A, and mine is the same, he said. Over the years, the investment has indeed been stable and profitable. Then, it was that group of supercomputers that took advantage of the convenience of executing stock and foreign exchange transactions on it and lost all my money. Today, Company A contacted me again, saying that as long as I change my position on the bill, they will bear the loss of my assets. I understand. It is a political frame-up, but how can I help you? And Neon Songzu said, use your cannons to shoot me into the river. At least, will die quickly. He said, he is quite courageous. like a former president. And Annie Songzu said, Fraga, we'll call Fox and see if he has any ideas. The frog ran away. The buffalo and the fox ran to the turret together. After listening to the frog's explanation, he asked the old man some more questions. We will take care of this matter, the buffalo said to Annie Songzu. Declare war on supercomputer clusters, unscrupulous company, unjudicial frame-ups. It's late today. Annie Songzu said, let's return home first, discuss it in the evening, and come back to solve it tomorrow. The buffalo talked with the fox for a few words, and said to Annie Songzu and the fox, you take the old man back first. I'll go back to the cockpit and return home immediately. The Seashell spacecraft ended a day of exploration and returned to the cruising orbit around Mars.